Hello, class. So today we are going to be talking about exam number 2. Now, exam number 2 will be available starting Sunday night or Monday morning at 12 a.m. on the November 2nd, and it will close at 11:59 on November 10th. This exam can be taken from home. You'll be given 3 hours to take the exam. All notes, anything that you have, you can use, but you can't, of course, corroborate with other students in the class and do not communicate with them once you've taken the test either. So now, when we go into the actual test, um, let me just double check here. Um, don't pay attention to the two process costing template. Well, yes, they will be available. You do not have to take it at a testing center. You can take it at home, and it is still worth 160 points or 16% of your final grade. And as I said before, it's at home, so you can use whatever you have available to you. Now, in the test, there are a total of 35 questions available in the test. 33 questions that you're actually going to answer. There's some at the end, 34 and 35, that you do not have to do anything with. I don't even know why they're there. I'll probably get that out there. But 33 questions, and again, it's going to be 160 points. So each question is going to be worth probably between 4 to 6 points each. So keep that in mind too. You have multiple choice questions available. And then you're going to have um, some things that you have to determine the rates and show all your work with. Calculator, of course, I would have a calculator with you, and any notes that you have that you need. Okay. Now, this particular test is over chapters 4, 5, and 17. Chapter 4 is job costing, 5 is activity based costing and activity based management, and 17 is process costing. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is the manufacturing overhead. Allocating manufacturing overhead is critical to estimate the product cost. Now, product cost, you have to remember, includes direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Uh, the test is going to be used in a lot of abbreviations, so make sure you understand what each abbreviation means. Typically, the actual direct material, direct labor costs can be determined, but what we have to do is determine how much of the manufacturing overhead cost will be allocated. Now, we know that the actual cost isn't known until the end of the year. So we have a couple ways that we estimate those. We use the PDOR, or predetermined overhead rate. Now, in the book, you might see budgeted overhead rate, and that's the same thing. We allocate the overhead to products by one single activity, and it equals the total estimated manufacturing overhead divided by the total estimated activity. This could be based on direct materials. It could be based on labor hours or machine hours, and you apply the overhead by the predetermined overhead rate times the actual activity. Now, in ABC, we use multiple PDOR rates by dividing the manufacturing overhead into groups or cost pools. And those choose the activity driver that best allocates those overhead costs to products. Cost pools may be departments, activities, processes, or anything similar to that. Now, at the end of the year, we have to determine if the overhead was over applied or under applied. Compare the amount of overhead applied uh, by taking the predetermined overhead rate times the actual, or the actual by comparing the what we applied to what we actually did at the end of the year. So if the actual manufacturing overhead was greater than what we assigned, then we underassign manufacturing overhead. And then if it was less than, then we overassign manufacturing overhead. Okay. So job costing, uh, assigning product costs. So job costing use the product production is service or unique to customers, and costs are accumulated by job. Now, direct materials, we obviously can trace that to a job. Direct labor, we can trace that directly to a job. But the overhead, we have to assign to a job using either the predetermined rate or department or ABC rates. Process costing used if product is homogeneous mass produced. Every unit is basically the same. So assigning the cost of donuts during the month, April added all recipes, direct materials, direct labor, and assigned manufacturer to make donuts. They assigned the cost of the donuts that were completed, ready to eat, and partially made donuts, waiting to be fried. So our example here is a local donut shop makes approximately $200 donuts per day. They serve a small area on a monthly basis. They have the following costs. Their flour and all ingredients are $15.50. Baker's labor is $3,000. The manufacturing overhead that they assign is 20 cents per direct labor dollar. For the month of April, they made and completed 5,800 donuts and have 100 left to be baked on May 1st. All material costs are added at the beginning of the process, and the 100 donuts remaining are 70% complete in regards to conversion cost. The beginning inventory is 20 donuts that were 100% complete in regards to direct materials and 80% regards to conversion. The cost attached to the beginning inventory was $14.52, with direct materials being $5.25. Weighted average is used, and how much did it cost to complete the 5,800 donuts? So again, we started off with 50 or 20 units. We added 5880, so we have to account for 5,900. We transferred out 5,800. We have left over 100, so we have to account for 5,900. Again, transferred out, that means they're completed and finished. So we're going to have all 5,800 for both the DM and the conversion. For direct materials, all of it's included for the 100 that were still in work in process, and we have 70% of conversion costs completed. So we take the 70% times the 100 and get 70. So our conversion costs or our equivalent units are 5,900 for the direct materials and 5,870 for the conversion costs. Now we know that our total cost was 1452, which our equivalent unit, our direct materials were 522. I'm sorry, 525. So we take the difference, 927, 1452 minus the 525. So then what I'm going to do is multiply the, we added 5150 into the month. And so how do we break that out? 1550 goes to direct materials, and 3600 goes to conversion costs. Now, the 1550 was the flour and ingredients, and that's how we come up with that. So the total that we have account for is 5164.52. And so I just add those to the 525 plus the 1550. That's the 1555.25, and the balance goes to conversion costs. So I take that 1555.25 divided by the 5,900 equivalent units that I have. I get 26 cents per equivalent unit and 61 for conversion cost. I multiply those by the equivalent, or by the 5,800, and that's how I come up with the $1,508.35.38 for the transferred out, $26 for ending work in process, and $42.72 And so we account for the whole 51,470. Now you can use the templates that you were given on the exam. So make sure you copy those, print those off so you can have them when you're doing the exam. You have the weighted average and the FIFO. Now, measuring and assigning manufacturing overhead. Allocating manufacturing overhead is critical to estimate the product cost. Again, direct materials plus direct labor plus manufacturing overhead. Typically, we already did all this. Okay, so let's look at an example. We have Clark Company applies manufacturing overhead based on direct labor hours. Information concerning manufacturing overhead and labor for August is as follows. So if we're going to use it by direct labor hours to get our PDOR rate, we're going to take that 160 divided by 8,000, and so that's going to be $20 per direct labor hour. If I take the $20 times 82, which is 8,200, which is my actual direct labor hours, I have $164,000. Now, was it over applied or under applied? The actual was 161. We applied 164. So that means we over applied by $3,000. Now, ABC problem. We have Bentley Company makes products C and D. Information of overhead cost and for the two products appear below. The company makes 50,000 units of product C and 20,000 units of product D. So we have the activities of setup, ordering parts, machining, inspections, and shipping. And so the driver is net number of setups, number of parts, manufacturing hours, machine hours probably, number of inspections, and number of shipments. So we have an overhead cost of 200,000 for setups. We have a total of 500 setups. And the product D uses 1,500 setups. So if we have a total of 20 or 2,000 setups, that's the 500 plus the 15, and I divide that into 200,000, I'm going to get $100 per setup. For the ordering parts, I have 60 and 40 parts. So I have a total of 100,000 parts, 300,000. So I'm going to take the 300,000 divided by 100,000. I get $3 per part. Now, for the machine hours or machining, I have 12,000 and 6,000, which is a total of 18,000. If I take that 600,000 and divide by 18,000, I'm going to get $33.33 per machine hour. Now, with the inspections, that's a total of 50,000 inspections. So if I take that 400,000 divided by 50,000, I get $8 per inspection. For shipments, I have 20,000 shipments, and take that and divide it into 300,000, I get $15 per shipment. Now, using ABC, assuming the activity is based on actual, how much overhead would be assigned? So step one, of course, is calculate the overhead rate and for each cost pool, which we did. And the second step is assign the overhead to product D. So basically what I'm going to do is take the $100 times 1,500, I get 150,000. 40,000 times 3, I get 120. Machining, 33 times 6,000, I get 200,000. Inspections, 8 times 40,000, 320. $15 times 10,000 shipments gets me 150. I add all those numbers up, I get $940,000. Now we made 20,000 units of product D. So I'm going to take that 940 divided by 20,000. So my manufacturing overhead per unit is going to be $47. So again, I would highly recommend for you guys to Take a look at all the slides, all the homework. Do some homework problems that wasn't part of your homework assignments. Each chapter, if you go into the homework answer keys, you're given the answers to the entire chapter. So do some questions in regards to each chapter to do that. And just some other things to know when you're going through your home with your studying. Again, know how to apply or how to do the predetermined rate. The type of companies that use this process, companies compared to type of companies that use the other types of costing systems. What are some characteristics belonging to job costing is another one. The difference between actual costing and budget costing, and how is that determined? Again, know how to apply the overhead or figure out if it's been under applied or over applied. Know how to do normal costing. What is normal costing and how do you figure out the rates? What are the two categories comprising of conversion costs? What does FIFO consider when computing the current period's manufacturing costs? Assigning overhead with normal costing is another one. Finding out how to do the predetermined overhead rate, you got to know that. Know how to assign overhead to each product, just like this problem here. That's pretty well a lot of it. So make sure you know how to do all the different types of assigning cost pools and things like that. Very important. How to assign the indirect costs. That's the biggest part of the question. You have quite a few questions dealing with that. What are cost pools? Another question. And then I think one of our assignments was job costing or a process costing system. You got to know how to determine which one is job costing and which one is product costing. What is used? What would be a process job cost? What would be a job cost? Job order costing. So that pretty well wraps that up. Again, study very hard, go over all the questions that you had for your homework, go over the answer key. Overall, if I remember correctly, homework was pretty good for everybody. So, but if you don't understand, please do not hesitate to ask. Review all the answer keys, review any questions in the books that we didn't cover in our homework assignment, but you do have the answer key for that. Make sure you have your PowerPoints printed out and notes taken on the PowerPoints on how they came up with different things. And just take your time on this test. Again, it's 34 questions long or 33 questions long. Most of it's multiple choice. Make sure you have the templates printed out whenever you're doing this. Just make sure you have everything gathered. Review everything whenever you're going through or before you take the test. You have 3 hours to take this test, and good luck. For the word for this quarter or this lecture, that will be Halloween. Y'all have a great night. Goodbye.